Okay. Can you see me okay? Because
I can see you.
all right, I had something pop up, so that's okay. Um, and so my particular prescription, my good eye was a minus 10.5, and my bad eye was like a minus 12, eventually got to minus 14. And so what it means is that
Oh, I'm sorry, Pam. We lost you. We'll just give Pam a second to come back on.
are you okay now?
There we are. Yeah,
I'm so sorry, it's still doing that.
no, it's okay. So
Uh,
why don't we, just for the sake of the recording too, why don't we just go ahead and start over? Okay, so
okay.
tell us again from the beginning what myopic macular degeneration is.
It affects severely nearsighted people.
Okay.
And it is a risk. It's because the retina, when you're nearsighted, your eyeball is like this instead of round. So what happens is, because it's elongated, it pulls on the retina over a period of time, and that's a very thin tissue anyway. So what happens is the rods and cones, they start to atrophy, they start to die because you can't get the nutrition to the retina. And retinas are brain tissue.
Mhm.
So you can't get the nutrition to them to keep the retina healthy. And so you start to lose your vision. And in my case, I have no central vision in either eye and peripheral loss as well.
Okay. And so this is sometimes overlooked, right? Because this is something that is typically found a little early, but not necessarily diagnosed right away. Is that correct?
I was never told that I was at risk for it. I didn't know such a thing existed. And my optometrist knew I had severe nearsightedness. A lot of times I'd go for my checkups and he'd say, bless your heart. So he knew it was pretty bad.
Okay. Um, so we've lost Pam once more. Um, I'll just go ahead and chat about what people typically could look for. Usually, when you're looking at myopic macular degeneration, you tend to have like a very strong, as Pam mentioned earlier, a strong prescription for the glasses. So if you're someone who has a really strong prescription, and you're not necessarily older, because Pam, I don't know if your sound is back up yet or not. Um, oh, there you are. But how old were you, Pam, when you first got diagnosed?
Well, the thing is, my first incident, I was 32, but they didn't tell me what caused it. I had a hemorrhage in my right eye. So I had the wet kind at first, and in my early 50s, the left eye started leaking. But they treated me for age-related macular degeneration, and I don't think they figured out that it was myopic until they realized I did not have the drusen that you get with age-related, and I do not have the drusen. And so probably I was finally told about 5 years ago that it is actually myopic macular degeneration.
Gotcha. So that's something that people can kind of watch out for as they're experiencing maybe sight loss or low vision, anything like that. It's a good idea to um, make sure you're following up with your optometrist, your ophthalmologist. And Tom Persky actually shared some really great tips during the last Coach's Corner. For those of you who may not have caught that, there's ways that you can monitor your sight at home when you're trying to prevent low vision, or if you feel like maybe you're becoming visually impaired. You can use an Amsler grid, and you can ask your physician how an Amsler grid works, but usually you just stick it on the wall or put it on the refrigerator or something, and there's a center point on an Amsler grid where you'll see like lines, like well, obviously a grid, and if any of those lines in that grid start looking wavy or anything, that's a red flag. That's something that you may want to talk to your optometrist about, or your ophthalmologist about. So definitely good ways to monitor your sight at home.
Mhm.
So Pam, you're back.
So sorry.
That's okay.
Tech issues.
So how did this affect your loved ones? Because I know that you have your husband and your children, right? How did this affect them when you first got diagnosed?
A lot of confusion, not understanding. People tend to think when you're told you're legally blind, people think that you can't see hardly anything, and they don't understand how I do have functional vision, but I can't see detail. So it would confuse them that I can't see their faces, but
Okay,
I might go through the living room and see a little white piece of paper on the floor, and
right.
they were confused about how peripheral vision works. And so confusion, very supportive, but a lot of confusion, not understanding what I can see and what I can't see. And they still struggle with that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I bet that's tough because a lot of the time people don't realize that when their loved one is experiencing that sight loss or experiencing that um, low vision, it it affects everybody, right? It affects everybody involved, not just the one person that's diagnosed with it. So it's also really important to make sure that if you are the person who is visually impaired or experiencing low vision, that your loved one or whoever your close friends are also involved with what's happening with you. If you're going to the eye doctor or if you're finding other resources, if you're going through treatments, it's important for them to kind of learn about that too because it affects everybody involved, right?
It
So,
does.
Pam, did you go through any treatments or anything, any clinical trials when you first were
No,
diagnosed?
no, I did not. I actually did some free genetic testing with Foundation Fighting Blindness, thinking if there was a genetic cause to my condition, I would be eligible for clinical trials. But to my knowledge, not a whole lot is being done because they can't with myopic macular degeneration, and a lot of things are still kind of far off for
Mhm.
success with that. So no, I did not. I just tried to educate myself as much as possible about how I can live with this.
Right, because it must have been something really tough emotionally and mentally, right?
The toughest part for me was being unable to drive. And keep in mind, this was a gradual process. First, I had to give up night driving. Obviously, the night vision became bad. Then it became where depth perception was an issue, so I couldn't drive on the highway, but I still drove in town in the daytime. And then it got to where it was not safe for me to drive in the daytime. So for someone like me that's always been super independent, super busy, and my husband was working and I was stuck at the house all day, or friends, well, great friends had to take me places.
Mhm. Oh, well, there you are. So your
So
friend,
sorry about this.
no, don't worry. So your friends had to take you places.
If I were like, I'm a social person, so I didn't want to be stuck at home, and watching TV is not very enjoyable for me. Even
Right.
without sight loss, I was never a daytime TV watcher. That
Okay.
I was one of these. I
So
was
no
one of
soap
these.
operas for you, huh? No All My
Yeah,
Children, Days of Our Lives, nothing
no,
like
no. Or and even with the streaming services, I just don't like watching TV in the daytime. To me, that's a nighttime activity if there's nothing better to do.
that.
And you could
Okay.
only listen to so many audiobooks. So yeah,
Right.
it was hard. It was hard, but I'm in a better place now.
That's good. I know that you and I chat from time to time about what it was like for you and um we you and I connected when we were talking about that quote unquote dark place that we tend to, fall into sometimes when we're experiencing sight loss or low vision. And it's not always a fun thing. It can be very depressing. It can be very disheartening. It can cause all these different emotions to happen. But when we go through these things, it's important to realize that there are resources out there and that our loved ones are there for us. Because I know that many people who do have some kind of visual impairment tend to feel like they're a burden on their friends or their family, and they don't want to ask for assistance. They don't want to ask for a ride. They're embarrassed, or they're just like, oh, I don't want to be a burden. Did you ever feel that way?
I did, and my husband said, "If this were me, would you feel burdened?"
Oh, yeah, that's a very good question when you turn it around, right? So, yeah, it's important to make sure that people, stay up to speed with what's going on with you. Those important people in our lives, right? We know who they are. It's important to keep them involved too. Um, but sometimes when we do go through all this and we are, you know, first finding out about our sight loss, our visual impairment, our diagnosis, right? Our visual impairment, it's difficult at times to find resources. Did you find that it was tough to find resources or assistance when you first lost your sight?
It's like I didn't know what to do. Like when I was still low vision before I was legally blind, my retina specialist had told me about a salesman who came to our house, and I tried a device, and uh, I didn't need the more elaborate devices at that point. And now, though, times have changed, and I have several devices. Iris Vision is one of them. Uh,
Nice.
I love it because it's portable and I can take it places with me. But I have I have a CCTV that I use. Our phones are phenomenal with all the things we can do with our phones these days. So, yeah, but it was hard. It took several years. And so, just research. My husband would research, and watching things like your webinars, your coach's corner, watching different things on YouTube, learned quite a bit.
Awesome. Yeah, and I do come across a lot of clients who experience the same thing where they feel lost at first and they're just told, okay, you have this macular degeneration, you have this retinitis pigmentosa, good luck. And
Mhm.
they just, they're left on their own.
Yeah.
So I know that can be rough. And when you found Iris Vision, how did you hear about us? Where did you find out about us?
A friend saw an ad for it or something on Facebook, and he told us about it. So my husband went online and started researching it. Um, I think it was Sam's video where he'd done a.
Oh, okay. So you watched uh Sam CV from The Blind Life. You watched his video on the review of the Iris
His
Vision.
and he it was so positive, and so I reached out to the company, and they were so good to tell me, this works for about 85% of people. They wanted to know what my vision was actually like to ensure that it would be a success for me.
Mhm.
So he was very helpful. We decided to go for it and have never regretted it because, like I said, I use it. It's very important to me. I couldn't watch my step grandson playing soccer or football if I didn't have iris vision. I could not watch a movie at the theater or go see a play if I did not have iris vision.
That's awesome. And
Hmm.
and did you feel like you had enough sight loss at the time when you first got your device to
When I
actually?
first, yeah, when I first got the device, I still had a little bit of central vision in this eye. A
Okay.
month after I got it, that's when the dry took away this. And
Uh,
my vision is worse today than it was 4 years ago.
gotcha.
So but it still is such a huge help. And oh, to see my loved ones' faces, you
Right.
know, I can't see faces unless I put that on. So it's great.
Yeah, sometimes I come across situations where people feel like they don't have enough sight loss to use the device, but I know that you and I have chatted, and you've expressed to me that you're glad that you got it when you did because it made you get proficient and familiar with it to the point
Mhm.
where once you did lose more sight, it was that much easier to cope with, right?
Right. And I have a friend who
So we'll just wait for her to come back on. There she is. So you have a friend?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend who purchased it and she is still not legally blind, but she has low vision and she
Okay.
uses it. She said it just makes her life so much better. So,
Hmm.
you don't have to be as far advanced. Like my vision, my peripheral, I see 2400 with my peripheral
Okay.
and nothing in the center. So, what a great help. But hers isn't that bad. She uses it.
Awesome. So yeah, there's so many different stages. There's legally blind, there's low vision, lots of different phrases that people use. Partially sighted is my favorite. Um, Visually impaired is another one. So there are different stages for some of these. Like Pam said, when you're legally blind, that typically means that your sight is at 2200, right? When you reach 2200, that's considered legally blind. When you're
Yes.
vision, it's greater than that, right?
Well, like with low vision, it's if you see with your best eye with corrective lenses, if you see 20/40 up to just under 2200, that's called low vision.
Mm.
Then, like in my case, I can't even see the chart, let alone the big E. And maybe it's your case also.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's a big range there in low vision because 20/40 is not that bad,
no,
but
it's
21/80 would be pretty bad.
yeah, you start struggling a little bit when you get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, you have actually been doing really awesome things in your community. Speaking of low vision and eye charts and all this stuff, because as we mentioned, you found it a little challenging to find resources to help you on your journey as a partially sighted or low vision person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So tell us what you've done in your community and how you've partnered with your low vision specialist. I believe it was your low
Hmm.
vision specialist,
My
right?
retina specialist. So I'm sorry for my computer problems. So if I black out, I'll come right back in.
Yeah.
Um, I reached out to him and said, "Hey, is it okay if I create a resource guide for you to give your patients when if any of them get to the point of low vision or legally blind?" And they said, "Sure." And so I had communicated with the administrator of the clinic. The clinic I go to has 9 satellite offices and it serves Memphis, Tennessee and Jackson, Tennessee and all around. And so I created this guide and I emailed it to my doctor and to the administrator. They
All right. We'll just wait for Pam.
Sorry.
It's okay. So you emailed the guide to the administrator.
And the doctors loved it. They made copies. And so they now give that to their patients because I just said, I'm a retired teacher, right?
Hmm.
So I just wanted to share information. That was my goal. I thought, and so many people, now I know I'm not exactly a spring chicken, but so many people that lose their sight, they're older. They're up in their upper 70s, 80s, and so forth. So they may not have the technology or the resources to look for things. So I
Right.
thought this could help them. And I'm very excited and appreciative that the clinic does share that with their patients.
That's awesome. And then you've also created a local support group, right?
Yeah. Yes, and we have tripled since we started because word is spreading. And so, our caregivers, our people, our family members, our whatever, that their lives change. When our lives change, I used to run all the errands and do all that, and guess who gets to do it now? My husband.
Right.
Even if I go with him, he has to drive us places, and it's so much easier now that he's retired. But one woman in the support group, she has to handle their business affairs, and she never did that before. Her
Mm.
husband always drove. Now she has to do all the driving. So she said your roles switch. And so it's an adjustment for everybody.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to find a support group or peer-to-peer group, whether it's in person or virtually, so that people can see that they're not the only ones, right? They're not alone out there
Yeah.
experiencing these type of things, and they can connect with each other and maybe learn from each other. So that's really great. That's awesome.
And we laugh together. We
Oh, I
laugh.
bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
Um, so besides a support group, you also do other things on your own, right? Personally, you're an author. I know that you've published a few books. You've sent me a couple of your books, and thank you so much for that. You're a blogger, right? So,
Yes. Yes. I do have a blog. It's just, can I tell the name of it?
yes, of course, please do.
It it's called Life as I Know It by Pam Watts Harris. I just blog about whatever comes to mind. When I got discouraged a little over a year ago, said, okay, I'm going to quit. So I left it alone. And then I'm back to it now. I realized I missed writing and I had figured out a way to do that sort of thing, whereas before I just felt so discouraged. Sometimes you've got to learn new ways of doing old things because you don't want to quit doing what you love.
Right, definitely. And tell us some of the titles of your books and what you're working on.
Well, the one that's with an editor right now is actually a small book, maybe 20,000 words, similar to what I did for the retina specialist. It
Mhm.
is my own personal journey, but with it is strategies, techniques, technology, uh, all kinds of things to help people dealing with low vision, whether it's their family members or the person going through it themselves. My other books, a couple of them are out of publication now because the publishing company folded.
Mm.
Um, I've people could look online for Pam Harris or Pam Watts Harris. They're real, they're hallmarkish. What can I
Okay.
say? But
Nice.
this one, I just decided to create something that could go out to whomever would want to use it. And my goal was to make it short. I'm trying to find someone to make it an audiobook, but I'm going to have it printed in large.
Yeah, it's always great to have audiobooks. So I know Pam's gonna jump back on right now. Oh, there she is. So audiobooks are always great to have. So thank you so much for making it an audiobook, uh, Pam.
Yeah. I have found that even though I've already lost so much of my sight, I still enjoy listening to books by other people in the visually impaired community, and listening to their stories. I've I've read several, and they're very inspiring, and it makes you feel like you're not the only one.
What's your favorite title that you've read from someone else?
Well, I really love Kristen Smedley's Thriving Blind. Now, her case, her two of her sons were born
Hmm.
blind, and they have thrived, but she has individual stories of others in the blind community, and it's short, but it's just like we are still living our lives. There's still so much we can do.
Absolutely. And I know that one of your favorite hobbies is to sketch and paint,
Hmm.
draw, right?
It is.
That's really important for people to understand that it's not the end of the world, right, Pam? It's not the end of the road. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. All these different, what do you call them, cliches that you want to use. Point is, there's hope, right?
There, there is hope. And the thing is, though, people have to give themselves permission. It's okay to grieve. It's
Mhm.
okay to get frustrated. What you don't want it to do is for it to take over your life to the point you quit trying.
Right. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Pam, for joining me today. I'm sorry for the technical issues, but that's okay. We kept going, and I think
Yeah.
that we shared really awesome information with our viewers out there. And now people have a little more understanding of what myopic macular degeneration is. And through your personal experience of being diagnosed with myopic macular degeneration, some people might have an idea of what they could look out for as well.
And
Um,
I will mention quickly, Myrna, the Amsler grid, you can download it on your phone.
oh, great.
You don't
Thank
have to I used mine on my phone, and that's where I was detecting problems a lot.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So, um, I guess you could just search up, right? Google
I just
download
just
Amazon.
Google Amsler grid and there'll be downloadable images. Of
Awesome.
course, I don't need it anymore, so I don't
Right.
have it. But that's how I first would. I checked it daily because mine was so bad. I just checked it
Oh,
every day.
right, right. Because that central site that's your sharp vision. So when you use the Amsler grid, like I mentioned before, um, that's when you start noticing those wavy lines when that central
Mm.
site starts to deteriorate a bit. So
Right.
thank you so much for that. Pam, where can people find your books in case they're interested in purchasing some of your novels?
Well, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble has them, but I prefer they from Amazon. I don't make any money off of Barnes and Noble.
Okay,
So, but yeah, and like I said, some will show up on Amazon that are currently out of print. So,
okay.
but there's very few, and I will, if they follow my blog, I will be posting when this other book becomes available on my
Right,
blog.
and that's going to be exciting because people need resources. People need a guide to help them go through their sight loss journey. So thank you so much for that. Remember, guys, follow Pam's blog. I believe you said, Pam, it's just Pam Watts Harris.
And how life as I know it, the website is authorpamwattsharris.com.
Author Pam Watts, Watts, Harris, Harris, right? Author
Dot com. Uh-huh.
author PamWattsHarris.com. Follow
Hmm.
her blog,
I know it.
Life as I Know It.
Hmm.
And she will announce when she has her resource guide ready. So that's going to be exciting. And for those of you who are watching and you don't know very much about iris vision, you're curious, you want to know if you or your loved one is a good fit, you can always call you can always call sales at 855-207-6665. You'll have two options. Choose the option for sales. Our sales reps are amazing. They're knowledgeable, they're very easy to talk to, and they will be able to help you figure out if you are a good fit for iris vision and which device would be the best one for you. If you are a current iris vision user and you need a little more assistance with whatever it is, whether you're using your device and maybe you forgot how to use some of these modes, or you just got a device and you don't have a coaching session set up yet, you can call the same number, 855-207-6665. Choose the option for customer support, and they can help you. They can answer any questions that you have. If they determine that you need a refresher session or you need to set up your coaching for the first time, they can help you with that too. We have a very amazing team at Iris Vision, and the number again is 855-207-6665. You can also find us on our website at www.irisvision.com altogether. IRISVISION.com. And if you just want to look around, look at our website, you could do that as well. But definitely follow us on social media. If you like what you saw today, hit the like button, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing all of you during the next Coach's Corner. Pam, thank you again. Definitely always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right. Bye bye, everybody. Take care.